which would prevent him from ever driving a semi-truck again. This book includes backstories of the truck driver, the lawyers that defended the case, and the DUI expert witness who analyzed the case and then testified at trial as to the proper protocol procedures of the field sobriety tests as well as the breathalyzer test. This nonfiction novel also includes the actual court transcript from the jury trial, a courtroom showdown in which the final verdict would determine the fate of the defendant's livelihood. The book DUI Jury Trial is now available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com.
Your hometown radio station since 1949. We are WRMN AM 1410, Elgin time, 12 o'clock.
Breaking news at Town Hall. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. More than 10,000 flights have been canceled across the U.S. as a major storm is expected to wreak havoc across much of the country, threatening to knock out power for days and snarl major roadways. Kaylin Cochran is assistant manager at Route 66 Ace Hardware in Mustang, Oklahoma.
We had a pallet of ice melt inside. We had a pallet of ice melt outside also, and it's just, once they came, they came. People kind of knew. We kind of let them know when our truck was going to be here. So
Michael Colbert is with the Oklahoma City Public Works Department.
Yeah, I've been doing this a few days. I've been working here doing this since 1982, and up until this predicted storm, the worst one we had was in 2009, and it was called a blizzard to us. It was the most snow that we've had here in history, I believe. And this one is supposed to be pretty close to that. So we learned from that event.
And roughly 140 million Americans are currently under a winter storm warning. There is news of another shooting in Minneapolis. In this case, a 51-year-old man allegedly took a weapon to an anti-ICE demonstration along with some ammunition, got into a shootout, and died of his wounds. More information will be coming out shortly from Homeland Security. The GOP Congresswoman Lisa McClain of Michigan says she's optimistic the Republican Party can maintain control of the U.S. House following the upcoming midterm elections.
We are on the side of law and order. We are on the side of lower taxes for every American. We are on the side of common sense, for goodness sakes. That's what really is going to prevail.
President Trump is suing J.P. Morgan Chase and CEO Jamie Dimon for $5 billion over allegations J.P. Morgan stopped providing banking services to him and his businesses for political reasons in 2021. More from townhall.com.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. It's out of nowhere. Had a stroke. Super hard, obviously, for the whole family, but my dad had life insurance. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com, because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test, just a few health questions. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos, E-T-H-O-S, ethos.com/Mike.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. Did you buy a timeshare because they told you it was a great investment? That's a lie. Most timeshares can be bought online for $1. To find out what your timeshare is worth and to cancel it, call us today and we'll send you our timeshare exit kit free with all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley for your free exit info guide. 800-893-2288. That's 800-893-2288.
The latest figures show that U.S. economic growth is being fueled by strong consumer spending.
The Commerce Department says the economy grew at the fastest pace in 2 years from July through September. Those numbers are being touted by the White House as evidence that President Trump's economic policies are working. Analysts say that wealthier Americans are spending more, while lower-income households struggle with high prices. Despite the economic boom, job creation is low and the labor market remains tight. Greg Clugston, Washington.
President Trump addressed the annual March for Life in Washington yesterday, telling the crowd via video it's all about creating a culture of life.
This is a battle that must be fought, must be won, not only in the corridors of power, but above all in the hearts and souls of the people.
Tens of thousands of pro-life advocates took part in the annual March for Life on the National Mall yesterday. Breaking news and analysis at townhall.com. TikTok has finalized a deal to create a new American entity, avoiding the looming threat of a ban inside the United States, where it has some 200 million American users.
The social video platform has signed agreements with major investors Oracle, Silver Lake, and the Emirati investment firm MGX to form the new TikTok U.S. joint venture, which TikTok says will operate under defined safeguards that protect national security. U.S. TikTok users can continue using the same app. President Joe Biden signed a law that would ban TikTok in the U.S. if it didn't find a new owner in the place of China's ByteDance by a January 2025 deadline. TikTok went dark for several hours, but President Donald Trump signed an executive order to keep it running, while his administration worked out an agreement for the sale of the company. I'm Donna Warder.
Things were mixed at the end of the week on Wall Street. The Dow was down by almost 300 points. More on these stories at Town Hall.
Join your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt on our weekly radio hour, Chief Guard of the Republic, where we talk about all things national security, defense, personal security, safety, and dealing with law enforcement situations. Call in 847-931-1410. Ask us questions. We will get you answers. Every week, Saturday, noon to 1 on 1410 AM WRMN Elgin. Streaming on WRMN1410.com. Chat with us on WRMN's YouTube live channel.
Chicago defense attorney Mark Schieblo has co-authored the book titled DUI Jury Trial, which is a true story of a DUI case that he defended. The accused was an Illinois truck driver arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol. This book contains facts about the case from the date of the arrest up to the jury's verdict, and this nonfiction novel also includes the transcripts from the jury trial itself. The book DUI Jury Trial is now available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com.
Fixed Bayonets, comrades, we're here with the Chief Guard of the Republic radio show every Saturday noon until 2 on WRMN 1410 AM, the Fox River Valley Media Network. Perchance some of you are listening in on WRMN's Listen Live chat on the internet or on your cell phone, or you're watching us on the YouTube live channel for WRMN1410.com. Our studio call-in number is 847-931-1410, and the magic text number is 505-926-1410. Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing real well. I mean, people say this is cold, but I've had colder, you know?
Yeah.
And my girlfriend was like, oh, no, I'm watching the weather. It's going to be terribly cold. I'm like, oh, shock, breaking news, January in Chicago, cold. Who would have thought? I says, you know, can you look advanced? You know, I'm going to predict this. You know, I'm not a meteorologist, but I'm going to predict that in July in Chicago, it's going to be warm. Just predicting. Not a meteorologist, just making a prophecy here. So, like I said, the network news or broadcast news is all about fear-mongering. Fear, 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 fear. Oh, my God, it's Snowmageddon. Oh, no, it's freezing, you know, all this and everything. Everyone's got something to be afraid of, and they love that. You know, stay inside, watch the news. We'll tell you what to be afraid of next. We'll tell you when you can leave your house and stop watching the news, which is to never leave your house and you know, never stop watching the news. I say stop watching the news, leave your house, and see what's actually going on out there. Right, Paul?
Right.
Unless what, Marla?
No. I'm having a little issue with my friend. Hey, Dave, come here. Hey, Mike, check this out. An awesome veteran and a great furnace guy. This is Dave Kukin. Come on in.
Hey.
Hi, Dave. How you doing?
Good.
All right.
He's a loyal listener of our show, too.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I enjoy it. And former 52 Charlie, now doing it as a civilian. So
nice. With the combat engineers, huh?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, ended up with the General Hospital, mostly 801.
Oh, the 801st. Know them well.
Yeah.
So,
well, good. I'm going to check out his heat. Great show.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great veteran here. He's his family's been our furnace family for like 40 years. So I can't recommend him enough. Dave Kukin, Wandell Heating, man.
Yeah.
Full plug there.
several years back, I had a heating story, kind of appropriate, Anyways, the heat went out, and I'm a kind of do-it-yourself guy. I like to know what's going wrong with stuff, right? So I couldn't figure this out, and I had to call an HVAC guy in. And he comes in, and I'm watching him like a hawk, because I want to watch and learn and see what's wrong, And I'm nice to him. I give him a cup of coffee and making small talk with him. And he goes, Tuman, that's not a very common name, is it? I go, no, it's not very common. He goes, was your father a detective on the Southeast side? I go, well, yes, he was. And he goes, he put me away for burglary.
Wow.
And he says, that's where I learned this trade, and I've been straight ever since. Legit ever since. He says, I should really charge you for this part here, but there was like a vacuum connection that would engage whatever, right? He says, but all you need to do is take this tube off and use a pipe cleaner and clean it out. Boom. But I still got to charge you for the service call. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, no matter what, you should be polite, especially to the trades that are coming in to help you.
Absolutely.
I never treat them like I would never treat them like they're below me, because some of them are worth a lot more than I am. But yeah, the people in the trades are there to help people out. 100% for them. All right. So we're going to talk about tariffs. And what brought this up is that there's the mainstream media and everyone, it's all fear-mongering. Be afraid. The Supreme Court's going to overturn the tariffs that Trump's putting in. And then we're going to have to pay back all the tariff money that Trump has collected. Right? So be afraid of this. Be afraid of this. And I'm like, okay, well, who in their right mind, because you'd have to be a U.S. citizen or a U.S. corporation to have standing on this, right, Paul?
Right.
So if this was going to hurt the United States of America, who in their right mind would file a civil suit that would intentionally hurt the United States of America?
The opposite party?
Well, why would they do that? It really doesn't benefit them. It makes the country worse. Unless having a worse country benefits them.
It's like a scorched earth policy. They'd
rather roll over a pile of ashes, right?
Right.
Than not roll
just
it
so
all.
they could be in charge. You're right.
Yeah. So we're starting off with a caller right away. Let's see who we got on the line.
Hey guys.
Hey Larry, what's up?
How you doing?
Hey Larry.
Hey Paul, you guys do a great job. Okay. And continue on. Tariffs are a tax, okay? The purpose of tariffs is basically, if you take a look, since the end of World War II, you basically had created new factories in Europe and in Japan, okay? And then what happened? They start off with small industrial stuff, like what comes to mind in the 60s? Transistor radios. Remember that?
Yep.
Cheap, okay? But those governments subsidize exports. They want everybody working, okay?
Yes.
And when you go like to Walmart and other places, probably almost 100% of the stuff, I'll say 99%, is made in foreign countries. I just bought a refrigerator made in China, okay? I mean, I want to buy U.S. made, but we all want cheap goods and inefficient goods. Tariffs are a tax. Now, most people... So the purpose of what this administration is doing is to protect industries. Remember, take a look when you look in the street, where all the cars you see, where all the cars come from, whatever, are from foreign countries now, about 30-40%. They're not made in the U.S. anymore. Why? And the tariffs are to protect jobs too. Okay. Well, my family was in the firm. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll get to that. You jumped in right away, Larry. So. A lot of this stuff I'm going to explain out, but go ahead.
Well, tariffs basically is, and then another thing too. Okay, since the tariffs came out, since let's say last 6 or 7 months, I go to stores, same prices. What's there's more competition, and the U.S. is benefiting from this. Okay, this is just a slap that the other party says you need to have an issue. Every day you need to have an issue.
Yeah,
There's one
you need to have
congressman
fear.
in Illinois, Congressman Raj, says, look at the stock market. How many times do Democrats say, hey, we want to see the stock market go up, okay? They don't. So come on, they need an issue to go after, to go after the administration. You don't want to get political, but tariffs, but you can't avoid it.
All right,
okay?
So let's thank you very much, Larry. Thank you for the call and everything.
Guys. Thank you.
I'm going to get into explaining some short things. So tariffs, people say they're a tax on us, but before 1913, there was no income tax, and this country basically ran on tariffs. So if you wanted to sell your goods from overseas, here in the United States, you would have to pay for that privilege. And we had a booming economy. We had a lot of people had discretionary income. They wanted to buy foreign luxury items that these foreign countries couldn't sell in their own country. So they see the market for us, right? And they start selling this stuff. And we're collecting, yes, a tax on foreigners, not on our own people. But people say, oh, they're only going to pass that on to us. Well, that's the worst case scenario that people see, that they're going to pass that cost on to us. And you really have to want it. It has to be something absolutely necessary. The United States is self-sufficient in everything. Energy, everything. We don't pump oil because we buy it from other people, but we're self-sufficient in it. We have oil, we have coal, we have uranium, all right? We have hydroelectric, we have everything we need. The United States would run fine if we imported nothing. They're saying, oh, well, what about these rare earth minerals? Well, we're not mining them, are we? The United States has them, but they're not being mined, all right? And probably because it's on what we call virgin lands, all right? Like in the mountains, in the national parks and everything. All right, so what we have is the reason that Trump is putting these tariffs on these countries. He's using an emergency thing, where it's an emergency, it's a national emergency, it's a crisis, and we're going to put these tariffs on. And what the other party's saying is, well, it's not an emergency. It's under 50 USC 1701. It gives the president the authority to carry out economic actions, which is a tariff. All right. The funny thing about this is what President Trump is using right now was signed into law by his polar opposite, Jimmy Carter. So the law was put there for Jimmy Carter back in the 70s when we had this oil embargo. Oh, no one remembers the big gas lines and everything that was caused by that. But, I don't see any of President Trump's tariffs causing any gas lines, causing any food lines, causing any shortages of anything. But back in the 70s,
go ahead.
In the United States, right?
Right.
So he's using a law that was put on the books by the people that are suing him to keep him from using that law because they say that it's not an emergency. Who's the only one? Which branch of the federal government can declare an emergency?
The executive.
Can the judicial branch do it?
No.
Can the legislative branch do it?
No.
They could pass a bill. All right, so they could pass a bill saying this is an emergency, right? And it goes on the president's desk, and the president vetoes it. Then it's got to go back to the legislature, and then they got to override his veto. And then that could be challenged in the Supreme Court, all right, because only the president has that authority. So now they're asking the Supreme Court to determine what the president's authority is in declaring a national emergency. Well, they can't do that because they're impeding the presidential powers, and so is Congress. But they don't like what's happening, so they're doing it. Why don't they like what's happening? it's been beneficial for the United States. We have all of a sudden tripled economic growth, which is, even if you got inflation, if you have a continued economic growth, right, that counters inflation. What we had was an economic shrinkage and inflation 5 years ago it started. So for 4 years we had it. Now, what would the emergency? So the president declares an emergency. I didn't look at all the executive orders, for the emergencies, but I would say one emergency, this is just in my opinion, is $32 trillion in debt. Would you say that's an emergency, Paul?
That would be a pretty big emergency.
All right. So a lot of that debt is not because of not just because of massive overspending, but because of a trade deficit. All right. So we're not selling products overseas, so that money is not coming back to the United States. All right. But foreign countries are selling all sorts of stuff here, and that money is leaving the United States. All right. A deficit. Now, if we had fair trade, and for every $1 billion the Chinese sold over here, we sold $1 billion in China. But that wasn't the truth, because China had massive tariffs on our products. They have a protectionist economy. No one screams about that. But whenever we try to protect our own economy, everyone's screaming that it's a protectionist economy and it's a bad thing. Well, it's not a bad thing, and let me outline how. All right? The Chinese were producing steel like mad. They're producing a lot of steel. Cheap steel, some would say, not high quality steel or whatever, but it was steel nonetheless, right? They were selling it at a loss in the United States. They were selling it at a loss in the United States to the point that they were putting steel mills out of business. They couldn't compete. They couldn't produce steel, right, at the same price that the Chinese were. No one wanted to buy their steel. This is a national emergency. Should we go to war and need to ramp up our production, it would take a significant amount of time to ramp up steel production. That's going to be the slowest increase, is ramping up steel. You got to get the furnaces. You got to get the smelters. You got to get the
recycle or raw materials. Yeah.
Recycle raw. You got to bring in the ore. You got to break down the ore. You got to have the logistics to do that. You got to have train lines that haven't been shut down, rail lines that haven't been shut down.
You got to get the coal in the correct proportions. Yeah. That the laws has limited.
Yeah. So the steel mills, when they go out of business, the only thing that goes is the rail lines going into them. Those are going to be gone. Everything, so that's going to be a slow ramp up. Granted, in World War II, we did a very fast ramp up, but we had steel mills. They were producing a lot of steel, right? We had that because we were producing for Great Britain. We're producing for the Soviet. After 1941, we started producing for the Soviet Union. But before then, we were producing for Great Britain. So we had a ramped up thing. Now we don't really have much. So that's a national defense issue. So how do we stop the Chinese from undercutting our steel industry? What's left of it? Well, we place tariffs on their steel. We say, if you want to sell your steel over here, not only are you going to sell it at a loss, you're going to sell it at a big loss because we're going to tariff it. And then all of a sudden, the companies that use steel over there that should be patriotic and trying to use American steel, right? They're looking at the bottom line and they say, look, it's cheaper to use American steel than it is to use Chinese steel. So we're going to start using American steel, which does what? Well, you got to ramp up your steel industry, which creates jobs, right? Those jobs pay taxes, right?
Right.
And that money stays in the United States for the most part, unless the steel company has overseas investors, right? But you want that one steel industry, right? You want to keep that. You want to protect that. That's a national emergency. And that's why the tariff is on that. But there's other things. There's electronics, right? You want to have, all right, Formosa, the country formerly known, the island formerly known as Formosa, right? They do a lot of, How did I do that? Oh, there it is. All right. So they do a lot of microchips, right? Memory, RAM, all that stuff. That still's got to come across the Pacific Ocean, right? It's got to come across the Pacific. Something happens that stops that, right? Is Motorola still producing stuff in the United States?
No.
You know, and we got, who is it? NVIDIA, weren't they supposed to start producing microchips in the United States?
That's what they said. You know, we talked about this earlier where we were talking about the last American-made TVs were like Zenith and a Curtis Mathis, and they don't even make them here anymore. And you know, we're relying on all these foreign manufacturers. We should be having industries of our own that are supported at the very least to provide, you know, some alternatives, you know.
I'm not saying, okay, all right, so one, all right, and then this is great because I think a couple, like last month or something, the president came out and told Raytheon, right, you better step it up. You better step up your production capability in the United States, not overseas, not what you call outsourcing this stuff, offshoring anything, right? You better ramp up in the United States production. You better start using U.S. production. If we're going to buy the new technology, necessary defense spending, right? We're going to buy processors. We're going to buy missiles and everything. If that material is outsourced, right, overseas sourced, right, let's say we get a new air-to-ground missile. You know, we got the Hellfire, which is pretty good. I don't know how much of that is outsourced, but there's a new air-to-ground missile, and it relies on circuitry made in the island formerly known as Formosa, right? For those of you, that's Taiwan, all right? Anyways, if it's made over there, and that logistical, right, that supply chain is broken, you don't have that missile anymore. You don't have that missile. And that might be critical to our national defense. It might be critical to our warfighting ability. So you got to go with these defense contractors who honestly, they are sucking at the breast of the U.S. government. They're suckling at it. They can't even sell their products to any other country without the approval of the U.S. government. Maybe they are. Maybe they're producing stuff and sending it overseas that we don't know of. I'm pretty sure they are. I'd take a guess that that's happening in some cartage theft. Oh, we lost an entire truckload of missiles, right? Oh, we can't account for them. We made a theft report or something. Where are they? And suddenly they show up in the Middle East. Oh, how did they get there? Anyway, so when I'm saying that is something where you got to put tariffs on this stuff, like microprocessors even. Listen, ramp up the stuff in the United States for defense purposes. For defense purposes. We have to have an economy here. The trouble is, right, if you're a patriot, right, you'd be like, I know a lot of people that said, I only buy U.S. products. And that's good. That's a good thing. Larry says it's hard to find these things. Well, why is it hard to find these things? It's not because the U.S. population won't buy them. It's because we don't make them anymore. Like you said, Zenith TVs. We had a Zenith TV, right? My cousin worked for Zenith, but we don't make them anymore. So how can you buy something that isn't being made in the United States? Can we make them?
Yes.
Can we be competitive in making them?
Yes.
If everyone else is kept to the same standards we are, when it comes to, like I said, I love it. I love the ecology. I love the
we love
the
to
great
save
outdoors.
The polar bears.
Yeah.
We love the polar bears. We love the owls. We love all that stuff.
All right, but you know what? The other countries don't follow those rules. So they don't have the expenses of following those rules. So because they don't have the expenses of following those rules, how do you make it fair for the U.S. worker, for the U.S. corporations? a tariff.
You put a tariff.
You fine them. It's not a tax on us. It's a tax on them. It's a fine on them. All right? All right, so we'll be back for the second quarter of the Chief Guard of the Republic radio show. Want to read some action-packed, exciting pulp fiction? Read the works of Michael Tooman, now featuring the international crime thriller, I Married a Bot Madam. Available on Amazon in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle editions. The paperback is also available at other book retailers. Check out Michael Tooman's webpage at Scilink.net. That's Papa Sierra Yankee Lima India November Kilo dot November Echo Tango.
Looking to buy or sell a home in Chicagoland? Need trusted legal help with real estate, evictions, or estate planning? Turn to Guthrie & Brady, the happy lawyers serving the greater Chicago area since 1965. With over 50 years of experience, they handle titles and deeds, foreclosures, landlord-tenant issues, wills, trusts, and more. Appointments available evenings or weekends at their Roselle office or right in your home. Call Guthrie & Brady now at 847-524-1215. That's 847-524-1215. Or visit gnblegal.com. Guthrie & Brady, personal, professional, affordable legal services for all of Chicagoland. The happy lawyers since 1965. That's gnblegal.com. Or 847-524-1215. Guthrie & Brady, trusted legal help, made easy, fast, affordable, and experienced. Call today.
Are you suffering with anxiety, depression, PTSD, an eating disorder, or even a substance abuse problem? If it's causing problems at work or with your family, get help now at Insight Mental Health and Wellness. We can help and treat all types of depression and mental issues. We'll help you use your insurance to get away from it all to a beautiful, sunny, and tranquil vacation-like environment so you can recharge yourself. And with a Family Medical Leave Act, you could take the time off you need from work. Plus, with the Affordable Care Act, your treatment could be 100% covered. If you're suffering from any kind of anxiety, depression, PTSD, eating disorder, or even a substance abuse problem, use your insurance and get away from it all. Come to sunny California. Call Insight Mental Health and Wellness now. 800-419-0287. 800-419-0287. 800-419-0287. That's 800-419-0287.
Most people out here think that taking care of one another is important. And most people would step up for a neighbor going through a tough time. Most people around here help out friends and family when they need it. But the funny thing is, most of us won't look for help when we need it. If you're struggling with mental health, you should know that there are resources out there that can help. And it's okay to talk about it if you need to. One place to get started with information is loveyourmindtoday.org. Loveyourmindtoday.org offers a range of guides, instructions, and insights for dealing with difficult situations or getting through a tough time. If you're struggling with mental health, get the help you need, because most people out here really care. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
Join your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt on our weekly radio hour, Chief Guard of the Republic, where we talk about all things national security, defense, personal security, safety, and dealing with law enforcement situations. Call in 847-931-1410. Ask us questions. We will get you answers. Every week, Saturday, noon to 1 on 1410 AM WRMN Elgin. Streaming on WRMN1410.com. Chat with us on WRMN's YouTube live channel. Fixed bayonets, comrades. This is the second quarter of the Chief Guard of the Republic radio show with your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt every Saturday, noon until 2 on WRMN 1410 AM. Coming to you now from either broadcast, big antenna on top of this building. I think, is it on top of the building here?
It's on top of the building, yes.
Nice. So we got 2,000 watts pushing out.
Oh, no. We have excuse me, I'm sorry. We have a tower.
We have a
tower, yeah.
So it goes out to the tower, but 2,000 watts pushing out of the tower. And then I think they should boost it, Anyways, and then, of course, we got, if you're watching us YouTube, you're on YouTube. We're on WRMN 1410 YouTube channel where you can make comments, or you could hit us up in the, you could hit us up with the magic text number, 505-926-1410. Or you call in on a studio phone like Larry did earlier, 847-931-1410. And, of course, you could hit us up, I already said on the comments. You could be on the app. So you go to WRMN1410.com and, boom, push listen live. It'll come right up on your phone. If you miss one of the shows and, you don't want to listen to all the commercials, you could go to the Chief Guard of the Republic or cgr.silink.net. It'll give you a link to the Chief Guard of the Republic YouTube channel. All right. So, Paul, in your opinion, when the Supreme Court finally comes down with a decision on this tariff thing, do you think they're going to find in favor of Trump or against him?
I have no idea. And it's the questions that they were asking were very disconcerting to me. So I don't know. It's possible they could come out against them. You see, under the Constitution, it's in Article 1, Section 8, Congress has the responsibility, but they've granted legislation that gives the president broad powers, and they've continuously made changes and increased this power. Now, if they do that, that would be a sign that they're trying to limit his power, and it might be they might be using this as a vehicle for other reasons. If you get my drift. They might just try to limit his power, kind of like what they did with Obamacare, where they granted it and they said it was a tax, even though it was put in knowing it wasn't a tax.
It was never. Yeah, when they pushed it through Congress and they pushed it to the American people, and they pushed it all out to them. All right. And they said, it's not a tax. They screamed bloody murder. It's not a tax. It's not an additional tax. We're not raising taxes on you. Every one of them on that side that wanted Obamacare in, they were all saying, it's not a tax. The other side was saying, man, this is an additional tax on you, and it's going to be big. It's going to be a big tax on you, right? And they go through all this, and the other side says no, and it goes up to the Supreme Court. And then the deciding factor, I believe the Chief Judge of the Supreme Court says, well, it's just a tax, and Congress has the right to tax, right? But the people that passed it said it wasn't. Yeah. So not only did the president that signed off on it flat out lie, knowing better, because he was a lawyer. I don't know if he's allowed to practice anymore, but every congressman that voted for that also lied, because they should have known it's just a tax. Because that's basically what was the decision. It's just a tax, and Congress has the right to tax. And you go, see, we told you. No, you said it wasn't a tax. So how can a judge decide on something that wasn't even argued in court.
They can do a lot of things.
I know.
I'm not trying to be funny, but the whole issue that allowed Roe versus Wade was they were reaching and they went into what they called the penumbras. They picked something that had nothing to do with anything, and they said, yeah, that's going in. And in fact, there were decisions, civil rights decisions, that they were going on based on other matters like studies and surveys, and they took it more than the four corners of the papers and more than the facts of the case. And it's kind of amazing, but when they want to do it, they do it.
All right. So here's a question that I've been asking since I started the show. Since this was signed into law, all right, the ability of the president, unusual and extraordinary threat to use economic means, right, including tariffs, right? Since this was signed into law over 50 years ago, so we had Jimmy Carter signed it into law for 4 years, and then we had President Clinton. He did, I believe he served. He served for 8 years.
Reagan, what? You had Jimmy Carter, then you had Reagan, then you had Bush, then you had Clinton, then you had Bush, and then you had Obama, and then you had Biden, and now you have
Trump, Biden, Trump. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if this was so dangerous, when when Obama had Congress and him, and he got the Obamacare Act, or what's the proper name for it? It had a happy name.
Affordable Care Act.
Affordable Care Act. Just take the exact opposite what he did. Anyways, right? When they had that, if it's so dangerous, why didn't they change the law? Why didn't they go in and specifically determine what an economic emergency was for the president? Because when they had the power, they wanted to use that willy-nilly. Whatever the president said was an emergency. All right? Jimmy Carter with the oil. All right? So they gave their president broad powers. Now, when it's not their president, they want to take those away. Well, they could have done that, but they never thought that they would lose the White House. And then they didn't think that they would lose Congress or the Senate.
Well, they never thought there would be a populist uprising. And they never thought that the people would finally say enough is enough, because they're the elites and they're the ones that tell us, because we don't have the ability to think for ourselves. So they're the ones that have to, like we're in the nursery school and they're so big and bright and smart and everything.
And none of them can change a tire.
Not
one of them can change a tire because they don't have to. Because they could afford to call out anyone to come change the tire for them, right? Because they're never going to be in that situation or anything where they need that. But the thing is, right, they're not saying why they didn't change it. Suddenly it became dangerous. Oh, because someone's being a king and misuse. No. All right. Again, is it legal? It was legal. He did it. Right? He's doing it.
Right.
All right? Because it's in the law. It says emergency. It's not specifically defined by the law. It says unusual and extraordinary. What's unusual? I wake up every day and I have coffee, and then one day I wake up and I have tea. That's unusual. What's extraordinary? I get C's in math, and then I ace the I cram for the finals and I get an ace and I end up with a B. That ace was extraordinary compared to my average C's that I didn't study. So those words have very broad definition. People want to define them in their own head to suit their purposes. That's why this stuff is garbage. when they made this law, they made the verbiage very vague so that they could use it in whatever means they felt necessary. In the meantime, right now, hey, put a bill. Has any Democrat put a bill in front of Congress to rescind this?
I think they've tried, but they don't have enough supporters on different things.
Because it's not very specific. Everyone wants to add their pork into and everything, so now they're relying on the Supreme Court to make a decision.
Right.
I'd bounce it right back to them. I'd say this has been in effect for 50 years. 50 years. And now it's coming forward? Now you see a problem?
It's only a problem when he uses it when it might look successful to them or it might look beneficial to the country and they didn't think of it first or they were what they're worried about again goes into that Smoot-Hawley tariff that has been credited with causing contraction of economies and the Japanese aggression and the German aggression. And up until this point in time, there has never been a tariff that was moderately successful. Okay, and they've been going over the fact of they're living in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s. Okay, they just they haven't looked at the changes in the economy and what they on coupling and things like that, and several financial institutions, mainly through our friend and Cole Smulla, who's involved in a lot of finance stuff, and I've been allowed to watch some interesting, by major financial institutions. And at first, they weren't sure what was happening, okay? And they were given kind of I wouldn't say dire predictions for the economy, but they were given very neutral or some negative predictions for the economy. And now, as it's been on now for the better part of
9 months,
8 months or whatever. Yeah, they're forced to analyze it, and the real negative part of it has not emerged. Okay, and they're making their future predictions or modifying their past ones accordingly.
Okay, so they're doing revisionist history. Well, we said it was going to happen right away.
Exactly.
But since it hasn't happened right away, we really meant that right away went within 30, 45 years. It'll happen. So 45 years down the road, right, Trump's tariffs are going to have an effect on our economy, and it'll be bad. So we should look at it now and stop it. Even though it's good for now, and for the next 44 years, it'll be really good. But in 45 years, you see, we'll tell you, we're right. It's going to happen. You keep rolling the dice, and you go, next time I'm going to throw snake eyes. Next time I'm definitely going to throw snake eyes. But when am I going to throw snake eyes? Statistically, 1 in 36 times, right? You should be able to throw snake eyes, or 1 in 30. Right. Sure. Anyways, but you could throw 1,000,000 times and never hit snake eyes. All right?
Correct.
But it's the possibility is there. The probability is there. But there's the thing. Again, it's fear. It's fear. So the mainstream media isn't going to come out and say flat out, oh, my God, look at the economy's booming, right? Look at the people. Right. Look at the third world. Look at the countries. Like we talked about Greenland, all right? We talked about Greenland and the European Union and that are other members of NATO that are European Union, not all members of NATO, but some of them, right? So if Slovenia was against it, the mainstream media would say NATO is against America being in Greenland, even though it's just Slovenia, right? They'll rig the word, they'll wordsmith it that way. Yes, one member of NATO is against it, but has the whole NATO voted on it and it hasn't passed. No. But when they were threatening to put military in there, not to protect it from China, but to protect it, quote, from us and everything, what did Trump threaten?
He threatened to put tariffs on all those countries that were supplying troops to potentially interfere with our plan.
So are they afraid? Are they afraid that, oh, no, we have to come and deal with Trump because these tariffs would be terrible for the American people? And as French citizens, we really mean to look out for the American people more than our own people, right? Because tariffs are just a Trump tax on the American people, right? And the British, oh my God, we can't let our former colonies be suffered from those Trump tariff taxes. We must come to the table and deal with them. They're afraid for their own economies that have been living off of our ample bosom for years without paying back.
See, I have a totally different take on this. Okay. And I have from the beginning. Now, I'm not saying that he was disingenuous when he started proposing this, okay? And again, you know, a lot of people forget that he ran a very popular television show for 17 seasons. And he knows the psychology of optics and PR, and he's a businessman. I think that all along, what he's been trying to do is to get these other countries to step up and be willing to give support in Greenland and have our bases reopened and extended to a certain extent. But he wants these other countries to have some skin in the game because they've so far, under all those prior administrations that you talked about, have been unwilling to even put in their 2 or 5%. And now he's got them doing that. And now I think he wants them to put in troops to, have it, us as the main quarterback, but have another team up there that has skin in the game to where if something happens, it'll be an international force. And I think that in the back of his mind has been always the motives for this issue about Greenland.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. Skin in the game. That's the whole thing for it. And we talked about that. I was like, well, how come the Danish don't have significant forces there if they claim Greenland is theirs? And it is at a threat, I can make lots of plans, and I'm sure the Chinese military, the Chi-Com military, not the other Chinese on the island formerly known as Formosa, right, have a plan, a contingency plan, all right, to occupy some of those ports if they find it necessary to keep the Northwest Passage open to them, right? I'll have all sorts of contingency plans, easy enough, right? But one of the other reasons that we want is for our national defense too, because the Iron Dome, right? They want an Iron Dome. They want to be able to easier knock down these Russian missiles, some of which will be supersonic. We have to have a plan for that because if there's no mutual, if someone thinks that they could destroy us without taking a significant hit, then we're at more of a danger. But yeah, get these guys in there. Get Denmark. Hey, put some troops in there. Put some troops in there. They're already spending, $500 million. $500 million. That's what they supplement Greenland with. What else do they have? Well, all right. But, speaking on the tariffs, yes, he threatened them with tariffs, but that brought him to the table. And now there seems to be, I haven't read the whole thing, but there's some happy mutual negotiations going on, right, to take care of Greenland, which I think is going to be beneficial for Greenland, who's literally done nothing for themselves because they're not allowed to. Yeah, they have some autonomy, but that's only to keep, what do you call it? That's plausible deniability for Denmark is giving Greenland autonomy. So it's like, well, why aren't they planning for their own defense? Well, who's building up their industry?
They're like a partially emancipated teenager.
Partially,
the
yeah.
whole country is partially emancipated. They
don't have capital to build
a mine. They let them get their own place, and they give them some money.
They don't have capital for mining. But if someone wanted to come in there to mine, they'd have to go through the Denmark government. They'd have to pay them off. Or the Denmark government would have to come in there and mine. Well, they don't have capital to set that up. There's 3 countries with the capital and the ability to do that right now in the entire world.
You know, we mentioned this early on. There's an excellent series of YouTubes called Q's Greenland. And it's a woman that's an engineer. Yeah, I mean, like somebody that's involved in mining.
Geologist.
Yeah, geologist. And she's got a whole series where she would do a video a day. Yes, and I watched it during the lockdown, and I learned a lot about Greenland from this. And
she's got a lot of Inuit in her.
Yeah, she is, and you look at. Thanks for putting that up. You look at a lot of her stuff, and there's no roads from town to town. You either get there by plane, you get there by helicopter, or you get there by sea. Okay, there's no infrastructure like that. There's roads in each town, but you can't go like from a bus from Nook to someplace else. I mean, it's just. And they're like I said, they're a proud people. They're related to the First Nations people in Canada and our Eskimos in Alaska, and you know it's just a really interesting place. You know, it has a summer, but not really. You know, I mean, it's kind of like our spring. And it's dark. It could be dark 6 months of the year, and you know, it's an interesting place, and it's only got like 60,000 people, 58,000 people.
Yeah. So to pull this back onto tariffs here, all right? And so we're talking about unusual and extraordinary. So who is the Eisenhower tried to buy Greenland from Denmark? Offered him $100 million to buy it outright, all right? Much like when we bought Alaska. But do you think Eisenhower could have mentioned supersonic intercontinental ballistic missiles? He could have imagined that. There's some sci-fi being written back then, coming over from Russia, right? And a key thing to stopping that is the Space Force base we have in Greenland. But we could have other bases with missile intercepts set up there to intercept those missiles. Right? So having Greenland on our side or within our sphere, closer within our sphere of influence, would be unusual and extraordinary. So the deal with Denmark and other NATO members, they're supposed to be our allies, opposing us for developing anything on Greenland, he uses economic means, a tariff. And I think this falls under unusual and extraordinary. Has he declared it a national emergency? I don't know. But it's something that should come to the, it's something that should be in the public discourse, not just laughing at trying to buy Greenland. That when people belittle something like that, when the mainstream media makes it a joke, all right, then you know they're onto something. Not the mainstream media, but whoever they're making fun of. And so that is a tool for the president to use to have international. Who's responsible? Who's responsible for international diplomacy, Paul?
The State Department?
Well, and who does that fall on? Which branch does that fall under?
The president, the executive.
That's right. Can a congressman go overseas and carry out on his own international diplomacy?
Yes.
I believe there's an act against that.
No, I thought the president can.
The president can, but a congressman can't.
Yeah. No, Congressman cannot.
Unless he's appointed by the president to do that.
Correct.
All right, so when we come back, the second half of Chief Guard of the Republic radio show. Want to read some action-packed, exciting pulp fiction? Read the works of Michael Tooman, now featuring the international crime thriller, I Married a Bot Madam. Available on Amazon in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle editions. The paperback is also available at other book retailers. Check out Michael Tooman's webpage at Scilink.net. That's Papa Sierra Yankee Lima India November Kilo dot November Echo Tango. Join your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt on our weekly radio hour, Chief Guard of the Republic, where we talk about all things national security, defense, personal security, safety, and dealing with law enforcement situations. Call in 847-931-1410. Ask us questions. We will get you answers. Every week, Saturday, noon to 1 on 1410 AM WRMN Elgin. Streaming on WRMN1410.com. Chat with us on WRMN's YouTube Live channel.
Your hometown radio station since 1949. We are WRMN AM 1410 Elgin time, 1 o'clock.
At least 1,700 flights scheduled throughout Friday and Saturday have already been canceled.
That's Bill Alexander. More from townhall.com.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. Did you buy a timeshare because they told you it was a great investment? That's a lie. Most timeshares can be bought online for $1. To find out what your timeshare is worth and to cancel it, call us today and we'll send you our timeshare exit kit free with all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley for your free exit info guide. 800-893-2288. That's 800-893-2288.
My name is Whitney Allen. I am a widow. My husband Ryan died. We never thought in a million years we'd have to use life insurance. The unexpected happened. With Ethos, it is so fast and easy. It's 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage through Ethos.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term.
Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
This past week, the U.S. House passed legislation that would extend those expiring health care subsidies for those who get their coverage through Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act. Economist Steve Moore says he knows who should shoulder the blame for America's rising healthcare costs.
The villains in this debate, and the reason that healthcare costs, among many, are completely out of control, is the health insurance companies are just gobbling up the dollars. And so if we expand Obamacare subsidies, which it looks like Congress is probably going to do, over half of those benefits will go right into the profits of these health insurance companies.
Moore spoke this week with the Salem Radio Network. That bill now goes to the U.S. Senate, where pressure is building for a bipartisan compromise. The stock market finished a zigzag week full of terror threats and cancellations with a quiet and tentative close. The Dow was off about 285 points to end the week. More from townhall.com. There's been another strike on a suspected drug boat.
The U.S. military says it's carried out a deadly strike on a vessel accused of trafficking drugs in the eastern Pacific Ocean. U.S. Southern Command says that the boat was engaged in narcotic trafficking operations and that the strike killed 2 people, leaving 1 survivor. Southern Command says that they notified the Coast Guard to launch search and rescue operations. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Army helicopters will not be sharing airspace with commercial airliners near Reagan National Airport in Washington, D.C. any longer. The federal government says temporary rules imposed after last year's collision of an airliner with an Army Black Op to improve safety will now be made permanent. And that came after 67 people were killed in January of last year because of an unexpected collision between those two. More on these stories at townhall.com. From Washington, I'm Bob Agnew.
Elgin isn't just a city. It's a community built on connection, innovation, and opportunity. And at the heart of it all is the Elgin Chamber of Commerce. For over a century, the Elgin Chamber has helped local businesses grow, connecting entrepreneurs, advocating for progress, and inspiring the leaders of tomorrow. Whether you're a new business just starting out or an established company looking to expand, the Elgin Chamber is your partner for success. Join a powerful network of leaders making a difference in our community every day. Together, we're shaping the future of Elgin, one connection at a time. Elgin Area Chamber of Commerce, where business and community grow together. Call now, 847-741-5660, or go to info@elginchamber.com. Contact Carol Gieske.
Fixed Bayonets, comrades, we're back for the second half of the Chief Guard of the Republic show with your co-hosts Mike Tuman and Paul Burvid every Saturday noon until 2 on the WRMN 1410 AM. We're here at the station in Studio 14 on Douglas Avenue, 14 in Douglas here in Elgin. And you can call us in at 847-931-1410. Hit us up with the text at 505-926-1410, or you could be like Cleveland Dennis out there watching us on YouTube and hitting us up in the YouTube comments. Thank you, Cleveland Dennis. I agree with everything you say there, and especially that for things to change, you need to change. Applies to governments too. Or things will change sometimes without your help. But if you want them to change in a way that's beneficial to you, you got to be in there pushing too. You got to do something to lean that way. It might not work, but then you better do something to get other people to lean your way, because that's the way our republic works.
Sometimes for things to stay the same, you have to change.
That's also I could see how that could happen.
Yep. Sometimes to maintain the status quo, change has to be made, and that's possible.
Yeah, if I'm used to a certain status of living, certain level of living, and my job, I take a job cut or I take time cut, I take a pay cut or time cut because I'm either laid off or they reduce the size, or they say, listen, you could have a job for less money or you cannot have a job. Then maybe I need to find a new job so that I can continue to live at the level I've become accustomed to. Right?
Same thing with the country. To maintain your protection, your safety, sometimes you have to amp it up. You know what I'm saying? And get into conflict sometimes. So, that's things that happen,
There's a thing. So quick shout out, Dunkin' Donuts veterans this Tuesday, 9:00. I'll be there a little early. Usually guys are there at 8. It's the Dunkin' Donuts on Dempster. Now, we talked to another veteran, and he went to the one further west on Dempster off Greenwood Avenue, right? All the way out in the suburbs. But this one is in the suburbs of Niles, and it's east of Harlem, not west of Harlem. Anyways, we're there, veterans. Every veteran's welcome. Went to the Blue Box Cafe, saw something extraordinary in there. They hired a new guy. He's been there for a while. He's a retired guy. I won't give his name, but real nice guy. All the people there are very nice. But he works with wood, and he made the most TARDIS-looking garbage can ever. And real attention to detail. Really impressed. Really looks nice. So the Blue Box, Blue Box, the TARDIS, Doctor Who. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. All right, so All right, so here's where I got to get a little angry at Congress, because it's Congress right now. And like I've called them, I'm kind of independent. I will vote my conscience, right? But I get angry when you have the side that leans my way not really leaning my way. They're either you have the Republicans or the Democrats. People say you got those words mixed up. I go, nope. They're completely different, but exactly the same. In that now you have a majority of the other party, Republicans, right? Why aren't they pushing a bill, right, to allow the president, to counteract anything that the Democrats are saying? Why aren't the Republicans pushing anything? Because like Paul said, he's a populist president. He's not a party guy. He took over the party and ran on the party, but he doesn't owe the loyalty to the Republicans. Didn't create him. They didn't invent him. He invented himself. And that's scary to these guys that are products of the parties. They're all products of the parties. They're all brought up
we've seen this before, though. We saw it in Lincoln, and we saw it in Teddy Roosevelt. And he what he does, and they said this, he kicks the table over, sets it up, and puts new stuff on the table now, and then that's the new Republican way. And the old Republicans, or like Cass would say, the combine. There's a vested interest in keeping the system the way it is for both sides, because I'm of the firm belief that the Republicans like to be sort of the underdogs, because then they collect more money and they get donations. And then, they don't want to have they like to talk, but they don't want to be in the driver's seat because they're afraid that they won't be able to fulfill their promises. They talk big, but then they don't follow through with it. And they like to always be a little bit on the outside so that they can talk a lot, raise money, get some money, do well for themselves, and then criticize everybody without offering a legit plan. And, it's kind of like the drain the swamp concept. This guy, all right, we've done talking, we're now acting. And they don't like that. Both sides don't like that, because it shows the inadequacies of his side from before for not following through or offering a halfway decent proposal. And you know what he figures? You can either take the medicine or you could take it with sugar. And we're done sugarcoating it. We're taking our medicine right now.
So you talk about Teddy Roosevelt, and I just got to put this in there because one of my Army buddies way back did the most horrific thing to me. It wasted hours and hours and hours of my life because he did this. Epic rap battles of history. It's on YouTube. Epic Rap Battles of History. It is hilarious, right? And I just watched one where it's an epic rap battle between they have like really sequential people rap battling, right? Sometimes. And so this one was Chuck Norris versus Abraham Lincoln. All right. But at the end, to settle everything, Teddy Roosevelt comes in. So, that's a good one. So, Paul, when you get a chance, just watch that one with Chuck Norris, Abraham Lincoln, and Teddy Roosevelt. I think it's pretty funny, especially the Teddy Roosevelt part.
It's like that episode of Star Trek where they're going against the Gorn or whatever, and you got Abraham Lincoln and whoever, and, different guys from history coming in, and they're helping out Kirk,
Yeah. Okay, so, yeah, it's like right there. But there's no control over Congress. Congress, unless they're passing a spending bill that's chock full of pork, which is way too much sugar. They're sugarcoating every single congressman that's, when they take the votes, right, and it's alphabetical order or by height they should do it by IQ, right? They should make the lowest IQ, they should give them all an IQ test, post it in the computer, and have the votes go through by lowest IQ first to highest IQ, right? That way, you don't have, and it still might work out. What you got is a couple congressmen that say, hey, I'm not voting your way even though I'm on your side. You don't see it a lot on the Democrat because their party is lethal when it comes to following the party line. They are absolutely lethal, right? Circle the wagons. We don't care how much you messed up. We're circling wagons to protect you, right? The Republicans, on the other hand, aren't that lethal at all, right? They don't care. They will throw you down the tubes. So they have to always worry about having that majority because they never know who might vote present, right? So it doesn't pass. If they were lethal on this, right, they could get the votes to pass anything. But now it's a spending bill. That's the only thing they're passing are spending bills. We're going to spend this money, right? Why? There's too much pork in it. We just, get rid of this pork. Cut it out. Line item veto that stuff. Put it right through. I think Rand Paul and there might be a couple others are the ones that say, I'm not voting for it because there's too much pork. I don't know if they mean not enough pork for them or just flat too much pork. I'd have to say too much pork. That I could respect. But these guys will hold their breath until they get some special thing in their district, pork pie thrown in there, an additional spending bill, and then they'll vote with you. Or even a promise of something, they're going to put something goofy in the future, which they don't, because half of them don't sponsor these things. So except for, fighting against the executive branch, they're not working with them. The reason why a lot of historians and political scientists say that Newt Gingrich and Clinton had a working relationship. Like, they could work across the aisle with each other, right? They could try to get things done by working across the aisle because they think there wasn't much of them. I think the Republicans did have a majority, but they didn't have a supermajority to override a presidential veto. So there's a lot of working across the aisle. Right now, you have a majority and you have a president that can work with you, or you can work with him. What I see is them not working with him. I don't see.
You're right. They're not working with
I don't
them.
see Mike Johnson whipping these people into shape and saying, really? Really? You're not with us? Not a dime from the RNC. Not one dime. We don't care if a Democrat gets elected. Might as well have one. You're voting with the Democrats every time anyways. Maybe we'll get maybe your conservative district, they're going to elect a conservative Democrat that'll give the Democratic parties the same headaches that you're giving us. Right?
Right.
In my opinion right now, it's Congress that's the problem. And the American public shows it. What's President Trump's approval rating? In the 50%? He's above water, isn't he?
Right.
What's Congress's approval rating? 2%. Maybe 3%. Or I'll tell you what, they'll say it's a 20%. Congress has a 20% approval rating with the plus or minus 19%. In either direction. More likely minus. Because they're not getting anything done. They're getting rich. They're all making money. They're all sitting there. Again, we have a citizen journalist, right, non-mainstream media, that goes and actually blows the top of what everyone in Minnesota knew what was happening already. Like, it wasn't a surprise to anyone. The press never got it out there. This guy just happened to make it go viral, which is the next best thing. And suddenly Congress is there, and they're going to interview him about, the fraud that we didn't know was happening because we're big, smart congressmen, and we live in a bubble, and you got to tell us when these things are happening in the United States, right? They knew it was happening, so they have this inquiry. And who doesn't show up? The Democrats don't show up. They just don't show up. Well, why? Like he said, if I didn't show up for work, I wouldn't get paid. They should show up. If they sit there on their cell phones, they should be sitting in that seat, bored to tears or whatever, or angry, or listening, or being told, All right, so, and here's, I don't see, you remember Clockwork Orange, Paul?
Yeah.
Oh, great movie. All right, so they want to desensitize the guy to violence. They don't really desensitize him. They just make him sick whenever he sees violence, right?
Right.
All right. So, if these guys are actually physically ill to be there, or they're all upset because they have to be there and listen to this guy talk about the fraud, maybe when they start seeing fraud, they'll get physically sick and they won't allow it. So they should be there. And you know what? Good old Mike should be there saying, okay, who's not here? Okay, well, let's have a vote to censure. Boop, they're censured. Let's have a vote, let's have a vote for, let's subpoena, let Mike Johnson go in there and he'd go subpoena all of Congress. He could have, I would have it, on my favorites, on my Word documents or my word processor documents, I go subpoena off Congress. And then when they don't show up, contempt the people that don't show up. Right? And do that over and over and over. Vote to impeach them. Okay, we're going to have impeachment for everyone that doesn't show up. Send that up to the Senate. There's got to be rules in Congress to make them show up. There's got to be leadership that makes them show up. There's got to be repercussions for them not showing up, for them taking a paycheck from us. I mean, honestly, I wish there was a watchdog site or the mainstream media that says, on this day in Congress, here's the congressman that didn't show up and here are their reasons. And publish it. The newspaper should publish it. Do you think they could prevent that from happening, Paul? Would it be a libelous thing or whatever? I think as being public servants.
They'll try to stop it, but that would be like fire. They wouldn't want that. They wouldn't want that at all. I was thinking about something when you were talking before. There's like 400 and maybe 35 congressmen or something like that. And you want to know something really weird? There's some of them that have only ever proposed one bill. Now, they pass all kinds of bills every year. I mean, all kinds, but how do you get to where you're in Congress for 12, 15, 18 years and you only propose one bill? And I mean, it's kind of crazy, I mean, they should be proposing, that should be their job. I mean, they should mandatorily propose 4 or 5 bills a year at least. I mean, that should be, there should be some kind of like a test. How many bills did you propose, sir? Or ma'am? And then. Oh, I proposed one in 20 years.
And the one I proposed was to name the local post office after my nephew.
Right, exactly.
It's like, oh, great work there. Improved the country. But most the bills, what I said, and like last week I was saying this, the guys that aren't the clowns up there, the clowns that aren't serious people, all right? They propose a bill, they put a bill up there, and they push it in, and they know 100% it's unconstitutional, but they give it a great name, like to keep the kittens from being smushed by trucks bill.
Right.
And all it is a funding bill to provide $10 billion in government grants to underwater basket weaving in Antarctica, and I have a triple cutout corporation that's owned by my wife's third cousin that's going to run this thing, and it's going to take 10% off the top. So it's $5 million to me, $45 million for underwater basket weaving, maybe, right? So, yeah, a lot of those bills are just that, like pork, all right? But they give them nice names, or something happens and they say, I'm going to propose a bill. What are most of the Democrats doing now to get their names in the paper, get their names out there in the press and everything?
They're going to the ICE places, or they're criticizing Venezuela, or they're criticizing
the Venezuela thing. And everyone's got a printout. I mean, it's a template right now. Impeachment President Trump, right? I'm a congressman, and I'm putting in articles of impeachment on Trump. Okay, you stand in line, back of the line, dude, because they're all putting them in there. Do they get out of anything? But they put them in there, and then they scream, and the press says, "Oh, look, this congressman's issuing articles of impeachment on Trump." You know what would be cool, right? Is if you issue articles of impeachment, right? What the press is trying to say is it's an indictment. Like, oh, because this goof thinks there's crime here, right? They're going to produce it because this goof thinks there's a crime, right? But if it doesn't get out of committee, that guy should be impeached. He should be impeached. They should go to committee and say, no, we're not going to impeach President Trump, but whatever goof submitted this, we're going to issue articles of impeachment. It's going to get out of committee, and we're going to have a vote on it to impeach him out of his congressional seat. See, then they want to do it. Then they think about it. They're like, But again, he's a goof. He's using up our time. Our time. Every dime they get paid is a dime of ours. Our money. Absolutely our money. There is no slush fund gathering interest, right, that they're getting paid out of. There's no trust fund that these guys are getting paid out of. Like, okay, here's what I can understand. Let's say in the founding days, 1791, right? Wait, 11 years,
1787.
1787, all right? All the politicians, all these guys, all these big guys that fought the Revolutionary War, all these rich guys took as much money as they could, and they put it into a slush fund that's earning interest with like Lloyd's of London or something like that. It's a Swiss bank account, right? And it's earning interest. And now that fund is the only fund that is used to pay these guys. Then, hey, it's not my money. It was someone else's money that's paying them. All right, I don't care. But they're getting paid out of our tax dollars. They don't show up for work. They waste the people's time. They delay positive actions for this country. They're obstructionists on this stuff. All because they're clowns that want to get their face in the paper or obstruct this stuff. It should simply tell you when they're obstructing progress like this, they don't love the country. They have no love for the country. And why don't they? Because they love another country. Track the money. These guys, audit all these guys. Audit everyone. They want to audit the president? Audit them. Hey, it's good for him. It's good for you. You're an elected official. Let's audit you. Oh, my God. Where are all these payments coming in for your construction company that did nothing? For your consulting company. You're getting all, who consulted? Where's your offices for your consulting company, right? Where's your timestamp? Where's your hourly? Where's any track of any consulting, any paperwork or anything? Say, I did this white paper for them. It's consulting. They gave me a consulting fee. Where is that? But it's not, because that's too complex for them. You can only train them to launder money so much, right? When it becomes a job for them, they don't want to do it anymore. All right, we'll be back for the last quarter of our show. I hope you're as interested in this as I am. I hope you're as angry as I am. No, don't be as angry as me.
Hi there, Tammy Scully here from Talk Time with Tammy and Friends. Join me and my sidekicks, Nancy and Becky, for valuable lifestyle tips and unique views and insights on interesting topics and everyday situations, providing nonstop fun and chuckles for all. Get the scoop on consumer news, deep dive on current events, and learn about the newest economic trends, from exercise and gardening to music, travel, recipes, sports, pets, real estate, media, and everything in between. And it's all sprinkled with a healthy helping of bad dad jokes and interesting fun facts to boot. Tune in Mondays through Thursdays from 2 to 4 p.m. for a little fun, frolic, and infotainment. Join us, won't you?
Is diabetes keeping you from enjoying life's special moments? At US Med, we understand the challenges you face, and we're here to help.
With US Med, I can finally manage my diabetes without it managing me.
US Med offers a wide range of services to simplify your diabetes care. Personalized care plans, convenient access to cutting-edge diabetes tech, and knowledgeable support. Plus, we'll check your insurance so your diabetes care may be covered at little or no cost to you.
With US Med, I feel confident and control of my diabetes. I can finally live my life to the fullest.
Don't let diabetes hold you back. Choose US Med and experience better birthdays, better adventures, better anniversaries, and better everything. Call now. US Med. Better service, better care. 800-785-1673. 800-785-1673. 800-785-1673. That's 800-785-1673.
Firearms are the #1 cause of death among kids, but we know that healthcare workers can make a huge difference. This is why prevention is absolutely critical. It starts with listening to the community, leaning in on those conversations to better inform what is the approach that you want to take. You are the champions for change. You can be the catalyst for integrating firearm injury prevention strategies into your practice and really benefiting your community. Let's agree to agree that we all have a role to play in ending this crisis.
When our nation calls, patriots answer. The U.S. Volunteers Joint Service Command stands ready, honoring our fallen heroes through military funeral honors and serving communities during natural disasters and emergencies. If you're 18 or older, you can serve close to home with free training and just one Saturday a month. Prior service with honorable discharges are welcome. View our website today at usvjsc.org. We are patriots. We are always ready. We are U.S. Volunteers, and we want you to join us.
If your idea of therapy involves a fishing rod, a tree stand, or a campfire, then you need American Outdoors Radio. Host John Cruz speaks your language, whether it's about the best lures, tracking game, or that one buddy who always forgets to bring the beer. John's got the tips to sharpen your aim, the hacks to pack lighter, and the stories to keep you entertained. Again, that's American Outdoor Radio with John Cruz. Saturdays at 7 a.m. on WRMN 1410. Or stream it at WRMN1410.com. Get ready to outfish, outhunt, and outcamp them all on American Outdoor Radio with John Cruz.
Fixed Bayonets, comrades, this is Chief Guard of Republic radio show every Saturday, noon until 2 on WRMN, 1410 AM. Coming to you from the Studio 14 here on Douglas Avenue in the wonderful, on the Fox River Valley Media Network. So, Paul.
Yes.
All right, so, and you know, I just, so, I know that the press will spin everything, right? They're already hoping, but I have to have an extreme hope that the 5/9 of the Supreme Court, I'm right, there's nine members of the Supreme Court, right? They haven't packed it yet.
Right now, yeah, they haven't packed the court, but there's 5 of the 9 pretty much are conservative.
All right. So, all right. I think they're absolutely going to hold true with the president declaring what's an emergency and what isn't as well within his rights. All right. And if Congress wants to stop something, then Congress stops something by stopping the funding. You know, like, okay, we don't want you to do these tariffs anymore, so we're not going to, unless you eliminate this. Okay, which congressman is going to say, unless you eliminate this tariff on Chinese steel, eliminate it, stop it. I'm not voting with your spending bill. Who's going to come outright and say that? Nancy Pelosi, maybe. She might do it. She might say it. Ocasio-Cortez, yeah, very likely. She'll say something like that. But what would that tell the American public? They'd be like,
well, you know, Mike, as I sit here and you're right. Okay. You're absolutely right. But, I got to remember, you got Neville Chamberlain, you got Quisling, you got all kinds of politicians, and they're not from the United States, but they go against their own country's best interest. And, I'm not trying, and
why?
I'm not, huh?
Why? I'm
not saying this, okay? But, there's a fund out there that you can invest in all the investments that Nancy Pelosi invests in.
Yeah.
And, all I'm saying is, you got a bunch of people that are struggling, and they either get elected to 1, 2, or 3 terms, and the next thing you know, they're multimillionaires. That's why.
All right. So, yeah, they're because they're greedy. Because they're another thing, right?
They might have gone into it with all the best intentions, but there's some that don't even get apartments. They use a blow-up bed and they sleep in their office. And there's stories about the freshman group of congressmen this year, and by the 3-4 years you find out, hey, they're part of a group, or there's some implication. I mean,
all right. So they're
people. They're subject to corruption. They're subject to vanity. They're subject to self-interest.
Yes. Okay, so you see all these movies about corrupt cops because, police are low-hanging fruit, right? Corruption in the police department. That's why I stopped watching Law and Order, all right? Because every third show in New York, population, 6 million, 7 million? 7 million people. Yeah. In New York, every third crime was a corrupt police officer. And so that was Law and Order's. Like, okay, we had 2, and now, okay, we got to have a bad police officer. It might not be them being charged, or it might be a bad investigation. So, but every third one reflected poorly on the police. Right? I'm like, holy cow. I'm like, click. Not watching that anymore because that's overwhelming. All right. But so a lot of the plot line is you got like one new police officer coming in, and he's got the rose-colored glasses and starry-eyed. He just came out of the academy, and he's feeling real good about himself, right? And he's really good. And then he sees his partner take $50 off some traffic violator, right? His partner comes in and gives him $20. And the kid says, "I don't want this." His partner says, "Well, you'll take it, or you're going to end up falling off a cliff or something, you know." And they're like, "Oh, well, that guy, he was forced into it. He's not." But they make everything like that. So what is Congress going to say? Well, I was starry-eyed, and all of a sudden, a bunch of these congressmen, like, what's my favorite? Nader came up to me and threatened me. You know? Ralph Nader. No, not Ralph. What's his name? I'm thinking of...
Yeah, it was Ralph Nader.
All right. He came up and he threatened me. So I had to take the bribe money. Or I had to invest in this. The trouble is, you can invest in... Well, anyways, Congress has had no answer to other than spending money, like spending, I'll get that horse up. I'll beat it. I'll get that horse with the broken legs up. I'll beat it so hard that the pain from its broken legs will be less than the beating I give it. That's Congress's answer to everything. I'll tax the Americans so hard, we'll tax them right out of this debt. Because are we going to pay off the national debt with that tax money? Well, no. I got to get other congressmen to vote for this higher tax by giving them more pork in their neighborhood. And then, of course, they get the kickbacks. They might not be making all this money from good investments. But if you have a bill, right, and this bill is going to make aspirin 1,000 times more expensive, right? Aspirin, which is like you buy 1,000 of them for $1 at Walmart, right? But they're going to make sure that now it costs $1,000 for this bottle of aspirin, commonly used pain medicine, right? And this is going into Congress for a vote, that someone got it. It's going to tank, Johnson & Johnson's stock or whatever, right? It's going to tank it. So you sell short. That day, you sell short on Johnson & Johnson. You buy it, you sell it at 1,000. At the end of the day, you buy it at 10. And you just made $990. That's how she makes the money. All right? That's how they make the money. Selling short or knowing that stock's going to shoot up because of it, right? That all of a sudden, Congress is going to put in a bill that says only U.S.-made pharmaceuticals can be sold in the United States, period. That's it. Pharmaceuticals, which they define almost everything, powder form, super greens, all that stuff. But they define that stuff. And, all right, they're going to pass that law. So the U.S. pharmaceutical companies, their stock's going to go up because everyone they're going to be making more money. Everyone's going to play on that. So you buy that stock and it goes up. You're not taking a risk. It's not a gamble. It's insider trading based on information, but you're not part of that company, so the law doesn't apply to you because you're not part of the company doing the insider trading. You're part of the people regulating the company doing the insider trading. And is Congress going to pass a law against that?
No.
They should. That's what a congressman should come in and do. He should sponsor a law that says no insider trading against all the other congressmen. and have the congressman do a voice vote on that stuff. When you get it out there, have the party, yeah, that seems legit. Let's push that through. I already made my millions. Let's push that through. Right? It gets pushed through, and the guys that vote no on it, you know they're on the take. You know they rely on that take money. But on top of that, there's other people related to them. Do you think they're sharing the information? Or I think they're keeping them to themselves. I think they could keep their mouth shut.
Well, they might have investment clubs, or
No kidding.
whatever.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Investment clubs. Oh, guess what these investment clubs do? They pay them a membership fee. And all of a sudden, my investment club made $1 million each. There's 20 people in my investment club. I made $20 million because they all paid me, because everyone I made $22 million, right? I made my $2 million, and then they all had to pay me half of theirs for my consulting on investments. Consulting fee. And I got it written out there, consulting fee. But yeah, audit these guys. Make it dangerous to be a congressman. Not dangerous physically. Dangerous where they're actually going to look at you and say, hey, for the next 4 years, you better not take a dime. What were they screaming about President Trump, right? They're screaming that because he owned these hotels, right? And these hotels, right, were on the defense travel system, the DTS, or the government travel system, the GTS, right? That he was making money off the government by being the president, so he couldn't make money off that anymore, so he was in violation of some whatever act, right? So he had to turn over control of that part of his business to someone else and have no more say in it, be off the board and everything. And he did that. Have they done the same scrutiny on anyone in Congress?
No.
No. They're not going after Mike Johnson in a little bit, but all of a sudden he's one of them. They're not going after, Senator Schiff, right? No one's went after him. It's an old boys club. It's a whole club now, and that's it. Once you get a taste of that good H, man. Once you get a taste of that good H, you're on it for life. You know what I'm talking about? These guys can't survive without it. I mean, the staggering. It's almost like, okay, so parliamentary politics, right? If they can't maintain a coalition, it all falls apart. And they have a vote of no confidence in the government, and they got to reelect the government, right? Got to reelect parliament, and they got to have a coalition that could get laws passed. Once they have a vote of no confidence, they reelect another government. That has worked that doesn't work for us. We have that every 2 years automatically. Every 2 years. We have all of Congress, all of them, every single last one of them has to vote, has to run for re-election. So
all of the House of Representatives.
All the House of Representatives and 1/3 of the Senate.
Of the Senate, yeah.
So 1/3, that's 33 or so senators that have to run for re-election. That could sway who's got control. That could give one party a supermajority, depending on which senators are in line, what year it is. But the congressman, one thing I got to give Mexico, they elect their president for 6 years, one term, right? 6 years, that's it. You don't get a second term. And the saying is, if they can't steal enough in 6 years, they don't deserve a second term. I'd say that we should take this thing on Congress. If you can't steal enough in 2 years, buddy, you're out. And same thing for the senators. You're out. It should be. I'm a member of a couple voluntary organizations, quasi-charitable organizations. I'm like the bigger ones. There's a lot of ones out there that have a lot more members than we do, right? We have trouble getting officers to fill the seats because no one wants to do the job because it's thankless and you're doing it for free. That's what Congress should be like. You're doing it for free. So you're there because you have an interest in doing something for the country. And if you don't have to worry about getting reelected, you're not taking bribes for your reelection committee indirectly. If you have to worry about being audited for the next 10 years after Congress, you're not worried, you're not taking those things or you're hiding them better. I just, so when it comes to the tariffs, if the Republicans really cared, the Republicrats really cared, they'd have introduced legislation to give more specific definition. If the Democrats really cared, they would have introduced legislation to revoke that act. None of that has happened.
U.S. House members are eligible for a pension after they've served 5 years.
I thought it was only 2. I thought
no 5, which brings up that Green. I think she just had 5 years. I mean, so
nice.
Yeah, you wonder. You really wonder.
Yeah. Okay. So getting back to Greenland now, right?
Yeah.
And getting back to the Senate, getting back to Congress. So if you had Greenland become a state, how many senators do you have now?
100.
And 2. No, if Greenland became a state?
Oh, once it becomes, it would be 102.
Greenland's got a population of 50,000 people that are around 50,000 people that are massively subsidized by the government. What do we know of people that are massively subsidized by the government?
Welfare people?
Well, they're not working welfare or whatever. They're massively subsidized. But which side did they vote on? They often vote liberal.
Right.
Right? So they're going to elect liberal senators. Right? And they're going to get 1 vote in Congress. They're going to take a House seat away from someone. Likely, it'll be taken away from an already blue state, right? So it really doesn't.
Well, I think they'll give them. I think they'll give them a new. You get a new one when it becomes a state.
No, it's by population. It's broken up by population by law. There's a limited amount. It's not by state. There's a limited amount of congressmen divided up by the population. That's why Minnesota's worried, right? Is that they've lost so many by deportation already. If another census comes in, when one comes in 2030, that they're going to lose representatives because they're basing on everyone there, right? So there's only 435, and that gets divided up by the states by population. But they get at least 1, right? They get at least 1. So like Alaska got 1, right? So they got 3 electoral votes. Hawaii, 3 electoral votes. Rhode Island, 3 electoral votes. Because they get 1. So like California would give up 1 and would go to Greenland. Or Minnesota might go to Greenland. Because they get at least 1. No matter what their population is, right? And that person, right? So they've increased it, right? Now they're not packing the Supreme Court, but it would be their benefit, right? Get this, it would be their benefit. I highly doubt that Greenland is going to vote highly conservative. But they don't care about that. They know. They know that blue vote is just going to go over to Greenland. But what they're not counting on is that extra 2 in the Senate that could switch, because you can't pass anything in Congress unless you pass it through the Senate also. Right? Goes through the House, then goes through the Senate. Doesn't go to get the president's signature unless it goes to the Senate. You get where I'm going with this, Drift Paul?
Mm-hmm.
Did you think they'd be pushing for it? Be like, oh my God, I didn't think of that. They're pushing for Puerto Rico. They're pushing for D.C. to be a state, which is counterproductive to the Constitution and everything that's been set up. That the our capital of our country is not in any state. That it's separate from the states. That it's a federal area. They want that to be a state or consider a state because they want 2 Senate seats because they know those Senate seats are going to be blue. So I don't see why they're not on that board with Greenland. Maybe they want to tariff all the natural gas and uranium and everything that's going to be coming out of Greenland. Then when we get... like I said, there's 3 countries in this world that would be able to take advantage of the natural resources in Greenland, that have the industrial might to do it. That's China, Russia, and the United States. I think Russia has enough unexploited natural resources in Siberia. They haven't even gotten at. They're having trouble exporting that to get money because we put in embargoes and tariffs on them. I can't find Russian beer anymore. And because of the war in Ukraine. And China, they have tried to exploit natural resources all over Africa. They're in Southwest Asia, in Afghanistan. They're exploiting natural resources there. The Taliban does not mess with them because they don't play. The Chinese do not play on that stuff. So they are the biggest threat to exploit the natural resources of Greenland and then make Greenland dependent upon them but most of the people in Greenland will just end up, instead of being subsidized by Denmark, they'll be subsidized by China because I guarantee you the Chinese will bring in Chinese labor. That all those jobs, most of those jobs, not all. Oh, you're going to extremes again. Well, a good majority of those jobs will go to Chinese. And they'll exploit it, and there'll be some trickle down there because the Chinese are going to have groceries and entertainment and stuff like that. And that's the type of jobs that'll go to the natives of Greenland.
From looking at this, I think I'm right. There would be an extra seat added because in 1910, there were 391 seats. But with the addition of 3 states in 1912 and 1959, they went up to 435 seats. And that would account for the additional legislative districts in Arizona and Hawaii and Alaska.
Well, what year did it go up to 435?
It was by 1964.
1964, they made 435.
Yeah, but in 1910, there were 391.
Yeah, well, no, I knew that. I knew that they had increased the number. But if it was based strictly on the states, right, then the number would have changed when all those territories became states. They wouldn't have waited until 1964.
No, I think it does. I think it does. I'm just looking.
I don't think it was automatic.
Yeah, I think they do because there would be an additional one because we're not technically losing population from anywhere. It's technically gaining, but yeah, I think they do get more representatives because if that would have been the case, there would have been our population. Our population in some areas, the number set at 435.
Yeah, by law, because they passed that into law. Was that an amendment to the Constitution?
I think they can get more representatives.
If they pass a law, I don't think it's automatic. I think they have to pass a law to make that happen.
Yeah.
All right, Paul. I'll see you next week. I'll have a direct. You know what? I'll have a very specific answer on that. And if you're right, you're right. If I'm wrong, I'll do something I never do. Admit that I'm wrong. No, I admit a lot that I'm wrong. I've been wrong a lot.
I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
All right. Peace out, Paul. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Peace out, everyone else.